Viva to the ANC, viva. Uzithola kanjani? Uhlele. Greetings to leadership of the African National Congress that is present here. Greetings to the most important people here today, the veterans of the African National Congress, comrades who have kept the Freedom Charter alive, even when it wasn't popular. Greetings to the members of the Women's League, the Young Women's Desk, COSAS, SASCO. We're a very big organization, Comrade Snooki, President of the Women's League, of the Veterans League, not Women's League. I'll summarize by saying to the mass democratic movement, but most importantly to our religious leaders who are also present here. Comrades, it is not an ordinary day. We are celebrating a document and a program of action that was drafted in the days where no one could just draft. It was drafted by a special generation, a selfless generation. President of the Veterans League, when this document was drafted, there were no tenders, there was no corruption of black people, there were no government positions. It was drafted to unite South Africans and Africans in general, from all racial groups. Non-racialism of the African National Congress existed at that time, not on paper but practically. And I always mention this point that every time we look at ourselves in our NECs, whether it's Youth League, whether it's SASCO, whether it's COSAS, whether it's Women's League, whether it's the Veterans League, are we still a reflection of the values and the principles of the African National Congress? Are we still a reflection of those that said united to fight against an oppressive system of apartheid? Are we still a non-racial organization? Are we non-racial on paper or non-racial in practical? And those are discussions I think we need to have today. I'm saying myself standing here as the president of the Youth League. My NEC does not reflect the non-racial character of the African National Congress. I'm saying we are no longer an organization that unites South Africans. That's why anyone in every corner, everywhere, President Snooki, can easily speak about what you call, others were posting everywhere, members of the ANC, but the ANC must align with us so-called black caucus. I'm raising this discussion when we're discussing the Freedom Charter because the Freedom Charter is a document. When others said that we must marshal whites and others to the sea, the Freedom Charter says let's unite everyone. And others left. The beginning of breakaways in the African National Congress was because of a discussion or a document that said let's unite everyone. Because we're not fighting to divide, we're fighting against injustice of this country. We're fighting that the economy of the country must reflect the demographics of the country. We're fighting against inequalities. We're fighting against apartheid. We're not fighting against the race, we're fighting against the system. It is this document that defined the African National Congress as an option to unite not only South Africa, but Africa and the world. Now the question we must ask ourselves today, every time we walk and speak, are we still ambassadors of the Freedom Charter? Or we've turned ourselves into a racist organization? Are we still obsessed about uniting everyone behind the agenda of the people? Are we still a representation of the people of South Africa? Or who are now representing self-interest, populist agendas at the expense of our people? Is our language still the same as the generation of gathered at the Congress of the People in 1955? Are we still the same people? Do we still have the same energy? Can we stand up confidently and say, we are charterists, we are the Congress of the People, the real one, not the one that has collapsed, that they've tried to create a parallel. The real one, not the one that how others behaved, your former presidents behaved to create Mkonto Wesiso, that has become Mkonto Wesiso. Was speaking about the selfless comrades who gathered, mobilized volunteers from all groupings, from all organizations, and drafted a charter that defines their agenda and their program, and who were ready to die for it, who were selflessly organized, mobilized, and even mobilized resources. Others left the country, others were killed because they were in a position of that document. I was still a representation of that. We need to really speak to our consciences. Those that go to church every Sunday, they know they go to church every Sunday to revive their conscience of what the Bible says, what God says, and they still fear. It is only the ANC, President Zulu, that people can lead the ANC without knowing its constitution and its values. And they can spend over 10 years in the movement without knowing the movement and the people and the organization they are in. Why can't we be like churches and every Sunday revive our conscience? Why we can't revive our conscience every Sunday? Because if churches know that their members must be reminded of what they stand for in society every day, why the ANC as the parliament of the people can't do the same every Sunday or every Saturday and revive our conscience? Because when you have no conscience, you are dead. How do an organization like ours that even in its constitution recognizes the Freedom Charter as a guiding document, but there are members of the movement who have not even seen the Freedom Charter? Why are we losing hegemony? We're losing hegemony because we have not addressed the most important points. We have not addressed, we have resolved the issue of political power, but we forgot that political power is aligned to economic power. We can't be a largest organization in Africa and the oldest and the largest in South Africa. I no longer say the biggest because people of South Africa have put us below 40% or 40%. I say the largest because we're the largest because of number now. But we're the largest presiding over an economy that is still owned by those who are owning individual apartheid. Have we betrayed the Freedom Charter? Can we stand up proudly and say it is right that over 60%, 70% of the population are still in poverty? Over 70% of the population are dispossessed from their own economic activities of their own country. Is it right that the face of poverty in South Africa is still the same face of poverty that was there when the Freedom Charter was drafted 31 years later? Can you explain and say that 31 years later we have not even introduced export quotas on critical minerals of this country? Does it make sense that we've deindustrialized? I don't know why we've done that when we're supposed to be the most industrialized because of the minerals below our soil allow us to create an economy, secondary and tertiary economies of this country. Who can explain why our factories have closed and turned into informal settlements? Who can explain why Germiston Marlborough has collapsed? No one can explain why there's high level of unemployment in this country, when we've got all the mineral resources to resolve all the social economic problems of this country. Now, as we celebrate 70 years of the Freedom Charter, we need to ask ourselves that the next revolution will be really directed by the people. Why is the African National Congress used less like hegemony? The fact is that the African National Congress is still the parliament of the people, but the people now want the ANC to resolve the economic challenges and the socio-economic challenges. Can we stand up every day and say those who are leading the ANC, whether branch or regional level or provincial level, when they speak in public, can we stand up and say that these people represent the Congress of the people? Does it make sense that in Polokwane we elected a president who can explain? Why is today we're saying that we've known this man for years, that is an agent to collapse the movement, but we've elected him and the members of the ANC majority elected him? Does it make sense that all these political parties know they can exist and formulate themselves and mobilize the people everywhere and organize themselves, and they know they'll find voters because the ANC is no longer listened to? Does it make sense that the credibility of the messenger is in question? Because every message depends on the credibility of the message. And I always say this thing, that if you can take a criminal and put a criminal in public and say must speak against crime in that community where the criminal stays in, even if we can make the criminal wear the cleanest suit, but the community knows that at night this criminal does crime in the community. But does it make sense for the ANC to put the criminal up and say the criminal speak against crime when the credibility of the message is in question? Now, the biggest problem in summary of the full implementation of the Freedom Charter is that the problem of faced with as a movement is the credibility of the message. Are we credible messengers to society? Do they still believe us, or do we tell them that we resolve their problems? And I think we must mobilize everyone here to say that the most important thing, the veterans here, we've got programs with the veterans as a youth league of just hours where we invite the Veterans League and MK, the real MK, to come and tell their stories of where they're from and everywhere, or working together with the Veterans League. The most important thing that we want to build there is understanding and the restoring of the credibility of the messenger. Because every message depends on the credibility of the message. If you're continuing to harbor, corrupt, indisciplined people in the movement, our message will always be in question, because every message depends on the credibility of the message. And when we say